and it's one of those days where you seem to have to want. You can't do much more than to take a step back and detach and maybe put your head to the, what's the term, grindstone, and put your head down and just push forward. I have several tasks for a client that I look forward to doing actually because it'll give my day some structure. Another thing too is our house is really messy right now because we're in the middle of unpacking and had to um, take everything out of the kitchen cabinets because they needed to get repainted or something. So there's just like stuff strewn around everywhere, and I think it's making my brain a little, it's making me feel a little disorganized. And when you're disorganized, you can't really think as clearly, and it seems to get in the way of you and your goals of the you can't think as logically about what to do next. So you can feel a little lost. I haven't even left the house today. It's like 10:30 in the morning, and my family's gone, just touring schools, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do today. And I would feel a lot better if I was selling training courses. As an entrepreneur, uh, sales is really important because it gives you some validation, it gives you market feedback, it lets you know you're on the right direction, that people care about what you're doing. And I've been in this space before, this mental space before, where you're right about to break through, but it almost comes in cycles or waves. Like you push, 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 and then you're tired, you gotta rest. And when you get your energy back in a couple days, you can start pushing again, but you've been able to, through that period of pausing and breaking, you've been able to um, what do you call it? You've been able to kind of internalize and process everything you have done, and taken this, like you took this serpentine path to where you are now, and now you have to coast. And while you're coasting, you can kind of look back and draw the best pieces of your previous work and reassess your direction, your focus, your intent, all the stuff that's very metaphysical. And to me, if you want to create something, if you're an actual entrepreneur and you are an inventor and now you've invented something or you're going to invent something and you have to sell it, it's the most challenging thing I could think of as a man. I mean, raising my kid is 10 times easier. Managing a happy um, marriage is 10 times easier than to peer into the unknown, the unforgiving blackness of the eternal and infinite unknown. Stand at the edge of your own demise and destruction, just at the very edge of what is possible for you at any moment, and to peer into some infinitely dark and mysterious future and glean some sort of valuable insight, and then bring it back to the rest of the tribe, if you will, and then convince them that this is real, it's useful, and it's important, right? And to ultimately sell them on this idea. And that's really challenging. Right now, I'm in a really good position, but if I'm not winning enough, I feel like I'm losing. And maybe that's part of my own disposition and naivete and immaturity, but boy, oh boy, I'm not constantly winning. I'm not certain I'm headed in the right direction. So when I feel like this, on days like today, where I just feel like a total failure because I haven't won, you know, I've actually developed some hacks. You gotta really learn to hack your brain. One of the brain hacks I've developed is to stack little wins, and so going to work out in the morning, getting out of the house early and going to work out. It's really good for you, and I haven't done that. It's been about stopped working out. I was working out every day for about a month, and then something happened, and then I stopped for like 2 weeks, and now yesterday I went, or the day before, and now I got to build that discipline up again, and it it's great because it gets your blood flowing. It gets, it flushes your system. I think it helps you start thinking clearly in the morning. But it also is a little win that you get to start your day out. You got out of bed, you got somewhere, you got out of the house, you exerted yourself, you got uncomfortable, and then you're done with it in an hour, let's say. If you go hard too, and all you need is to work out is for a half hour. So you can, depending how far your gym is, you could be done in an hour. And I'm not even that concerned about it's sad to say, but I'm not even that concerned about the physical benefits of working out insofar as I care about, as they are affected by or affect my mental and emotional health. That's what I really care about. I am so mission driven that whatever it is I'm trying to achieve, I want to maximize not only the odds of my success, but I guess I want to maximize the odds of my success at any given stage, because those odds or those successes, they compound. So if I can structure a deal today a little bit better, maybe every inflection point in journey is like a spectrum. If I can optimize this one deal, I can get the most out of it. The benefits of this deal are going to be, are going to be greater in a year from now than if I got a crappy deal. And it's kind of like a growth rate, right? I could be here in a year based on my work along the way, or I can be here in a year, right? And I want to be here. So that means at every point, I have to get the most out of every possible situation, so that by the time I'm done here, ultimately the value of the company will be largest, and the impact will be the largest, and my feeling of success will be the largest. And that really, I think, comes down to perhaps a strength of character. Every day you're going out into the world and you're conducting battle against the forces that would rather see you fail, whether they are, for those who haven't really delved deep into their own personal selves during their 20s, I really believe your 20s is the time to dig, excavate, and build a foundation. Dig the crap out, your baggage and your emotional trauma, dig it all out, and then lay a foundation on top of that of skills and tools and tactics that can help you. And so if you're going out into the world and you haven't done that, half of the time or more, you're probably going to be battling your own projections. You can be battling yourself. How far can you get if every conversation you're projecting racism onto every negative encounter you have? But if you deal with the racism in you, there will be no racism eventually. If you look at the ways in which you could be racist and you deal with those shadow traits, as Carl Jung talked about, the shadow self, incorporate that, then you can go out and you know that the things which you are battling are truly objectively outside of you and are being imposed upon you by others. They're not you putting it out there and then you're walking into it. Because if you see racism everywhere, you never know if someone's actually being racist or not, right? So, I've done all this insane self-work because I'm very dedicated to becoming a very successful business person and an entrepreneur. I'm highly, highly dedicated to this. I've sacrificed so much to just be in this position right now. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have gotten here, but I almost am certain the quality of my personal experience right now would not be as good as if I didn't do these things. And I also know that the outcome of all this work would not be as good. How does one person make $1 billion and another makes $1 million? How does one person make $1 million versus 100,000? 100,000 versus 10,000, 10,000 versus 1,000, 1,000 versus 100, 100 versus 10, 10 versus 1, right? It's a spectrum of outcome. And it really comes down at the end of the day of your inner strength of standing up at the right times when you're being discouraged, when attacking someone to put them down because they are being unruly and vicious towards you or others, of defending yourself when someone is being unreasonable, avoiding, most of the time it's avoiding negative encounters because there's no benefit of engaging, right? And how much time does the average person spend attacking others on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, or faking their success on Instagram versus doing the quiet, noble work that nobody will find out about until you're an overnight success. And so in your 20s, it's really important to dig deep, man. You gotta dig deep. You gotta take care of your emotional issues. Emotional clarity is like the number one. I think it's the number one. And someone who did not have it, I think it's the number one superpower you can have in the business world. Because when you're emotionally clear, you just know what's obvious or what to do next because it's just obvious. And when you're not emotionally clear, you're erratic and your income suffers because nobody wants to be around an emotionally unstable person. Because remember this, man, everyone on earth is like one crazy person away from bankruptcy at all times. You let the wrong person into your circle. You do business with the wrong person. You hire the wrong accountant, the wrong lawyer, right? Certain people will destroy you. They have the complete capacity to destroy you simply by the chaos that they create because of their weakness and inability to deal with their emotional trauma. And so if you don't even know you have emotional trauma passed down from you, from your parents, from your family, from your friends, from your culture, from your community, right? What could that even be? Thinking black people are scary. That's a lot of white people are afraid of black people because they're loud. They don't understand that that's just a cultural difference. They've never maybe traveled outside the United States or outside of the green zones that an all-inclusive resort in Mexico might be similar to. That all rich people are evil and money, and you can't make money without stealing it from someone else, which is a complete and utter falsehood. It's crazy to me because money is not a conservative force. It's not like gravity. There's like the same amount of gravity at any point. You can't create or destroy gravity, but you can create or destroy money. Money is lost in the stock market all the time, and money is created through the banking system all the time. And so you are in a way fighting for market share amongst other businesses and entities, but you can create there comes a point where that doesn't work in anyone's best interest, and so you will have multiple actors, companies fighting for market share, like in the hotel industry, and they get to a point where they have to, because no one's innovating, they have to decrease their price, and it's a race to the bottom to provide the easiest value is to lower your price. The easiest value to provide a customer is a low price, and you do that by producing a high volume system, a large, business, which I guess is a system of subsystems, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. And so they get to a point where everyone's kind of locked into their section of the market and has to lower their price, and only the biggest will survive, and then the biggest will take and buy the others, and then someone comes along and invents Airbnb, and the housing rental industry becomes it's called a blue ocean strategy, where all of a sudden someone lifts off of the existing plane that is your market space and creates an entirely new market that does cast a shadow and interact in the previous market, if you will, but it doesn't consume, it's not directly competing with people that book on Airbnb. I think Airbnb took a very small percentage of the hotel industry's business. Instead, it made an entirely new market. And there were others out there doing it, but they hit the market product fit. They understood the psychology of the customer better than anybody else. And boom, it's a very steep um, function where there's like a single point on the product market fit chart, if you will, where you add the right value and the right positioning and you get an insane amount of business, and you step off of that a little bit and you are adding far less value, you get a lot less business, and so on. So it's like a very steep thing. And so companies that hit the nail on the head, they get a ton of business, and everyone else is kind of just a little bit off center, but it's too much, and so they don't do nearly as much business. And that's why you see an Airbnb go woof or a Google go woof, right? Other search engines were trying to do it, but they hit the nail on the head, and they got all that. They provided so much value, the right kind of value for their audience that people just flocked to them, and their business grew rapidly, very rapidly, to a very large size. So, yeah. Oh man, it's very interesting times. Very interesting times. Now, I don't even know what I'm doing on this. I haven't had a fucking live viewer in 2 weeks, and the one or two people that come in, they come in for a second and then leave. And I think it's because they thought I was talking about something else. I'm not quite sure, but it is a little disconcerting or depressing even to be talking to no one in live stream. The reason I'm doing a live stream though is I don't have to edit it. Once I hit done, it goes and it uploads automatically to YouTube, and I don't have to worry about it. I already took the thumbnail, which, albeit isn't crazy, but half the time I'm just doing this as a form of discipline to get talking and going and get the brain moving and think out loud and track my ideas and the progress they're making. Someone also said on Twitter, when the next generation of entrepreneurs are going to live stream much more stuff, and they're going to live stream the bootstrapping of their business. I'm like, that's what I'm doing, really. So this channel has become kind of a place for my brand, my own Arashamini brand, where I guess I am live streaming the bootstrapping of my business, and I'll leave the conversion marketing stuff maybe on the Jet Engine page. So I'll do another video after this for 10 minutes, a screencast where I'm talking about the difference between brand marketing and conversion marketing. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going bald in the back of my head. It's crazy. I have so much hair. I had so much hair, and now I'm losing it all. And it's just like unbelievable. I can't wait for the day I go bald, by the way. It's going to be so legit. I can just shave my head and get it over with. I fucking hate taking care of all this hair. So, oh man, what else is going on? What else is going on? The political situation in this country is crazy. I'm wondering, should I talk about politics? Can I add value to that conversation? I think so. Fuck it, we're gonna go for it and see what happens. Because I think there's a huge, I used to be a crazy leftist. I used to be like far left liberal, okay? And part of that was I was young and naive and just like full of emotion, man. I was just like raw emotion. I think a lot of young people are, and around 30 you temper down and you're a lot less malleable, but you're a lot more useful. And I think you really got to think of yourself as a sword in your 20s, where you're hammering that steel, heating it up, hammering that steel. This is, by the way, this is called stacking that cabo, which is also my term for making money. And the hotter the fire, the stronger the sword. And so you have to really put yourself into strong situations when you're young to not only test your muster, but strengthen your resolve. And if you can't do that, it's going to limit your success in life. And you are also going to reach your natural limit. And I think it's very hard to push yourself beyond what you're truly capable of, it seems to take a lifetime uh, um, to develop any sort of meaningful skill set. So be focused on maximizing your impact on this in this world in your life, and I think that'll guide you the right place. But I have a problem right now with all these social media companies and the entrepreneur, the conservative entrepreneur. So right now you have like all these best practices that have been developed amongst liberals, and I guess now I'm right of center. I'm not too far right wing, but I'm certainly on the right of. I'm certainly in the conservative camp. And interestingly, though, I've been a liberal for so long that I have a unique perspective, because now I'm just neck deep or dove into the conservative camp and ideologies and debates. And if you are looking to be edgy in 2018, you should be a conservative. Not only will they accept you for whatever you are, but they will give you the maximum personal liberty and leave you the hell alone. Versus on the left, if you don't fucking toe the line, I mean, the modern left party is moving left and left and left. I saw Bill Maher the other day get shouted down by his own panel. So now Bill Maher is to the right of the left. It's crazy because he doesn't believe political correctness is good. And then the fucking NPC panel, the non-player character panel, is just touting these lines, and they're just there to use their 30 seconds to spout ideology and no ideas. I don't care what your ideology is. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. We want ideas, man, because we all want to make the world a better place, typically. And if you are creating more chaos and less order, then you are a part of the problem, as far as I'm concerned. You know, what does that mean? It means your ideas shouldn't be taken seriously. That's all it really means to me. And so I want to see a knowledge transfer occur between the best practices developed over the last 30 years by highly liberal, highly collaborative groups that have kind of flocked to San Francisco and know how to make good money because they work as a team. And I want that information to trickle out across the US now and help conservative business owners who are great at operating businesses leverage those best practices to grow their businesses and innovate perhaps business models. I think conservatives are better at business model innovation, if I had to guess. And I would say that because if you look at MBA schools, the biggest businesses that come out of MBA programs are business model innovations, where they'll take a model that's already been invented by someone else and they will optimize it for market product fit and grow that thing out, get the financing they need, boom, 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 and before you know it, you have these larger businesses. But too many people are fucking afraid of speaking their mind, and so am I. I'm like, oh god, what's gonna happen? I'm not saying anything crazy here, but you get the Twitter mob on you, and all of a sudden your employer is freaked out, and they gotta distance themselves, and you know, Roseanne Barr getting fired for making a comment, cracked out on what was that drug? Ambien? And then Ambien having the audacity, or whoever's a manufacturer, to say, our drug does not make you racist, Roseanne. And it's like, dude, your drug will let people walk into the street naked and not remember anything. It is such a powerful mind-altering substance that for you to jump on the bandwagon and just get one of those fucking kicks in as a mob is beating the shit out of someone publicly, it's so gross. So gross. And so I want conservatives to learn how to launch new businesses with the best practices developed by Silicon Valley, because the left is really good at collaboration. They will put a team together. They won't talk about ownership yet. They will build a lot of value, and they'll all get wealthy because of it. They're good at in the media space. They're good at making new inventions, a lot of cryptocurrency. I mean, all these startups they're by liberal people, they're made by liberal teams that just want to invent, and they're okay without really being the ownership being more diffused. Versus on the conservative side, it's like one or two partners. It's like a typical structure: founder, founding partner, managing partner. You know what I mean? And then everyone's an employee under that, and ideas are kind of less exuberantly. What's the term? Celebrating new ideas, and that I think comes down to like the threat detection system between the left and the right. So in a typical tribe, you have half the tribe doesn't half the tribe is classically, and this is from this guy's book, a liberal's book called Tribes, where he talks about like half the tribe classically or historically, evolutionarily evolved to look for new ideas, accept new people, and new goods and products into the tribe. And this diversified the gene pool, brought in new ideas, and increased the wealth of the tribe through new trade routes and stuff. On the other side of the tribe were those that wanted to keep new ideas, new people, and new items out of the tribe. And that was so that the tribe didn't get ransacked, and so the tribe, it limited genetic competition with outsiders, it kept pests and disease out, right? Protected the tribe. And every biological entity has borders. Every cell, in fact, a cell is almost defined by the type of wall it has. Animal cell or plant cell, right? Every biological system has boundaries. The boundary conditions of any system set the framework for the internal dynamics of that system. A box of 10 feet wide has a different resonant frequency for acoustic patterns than a box that's the same height and width and material that's 5 feet wide or 2.5 feet wide, or so on and so forth, right? And so you can't get rid of boundaries. They're an integral part, and they almost define whatever it is that's occurring inside of them. Atoms have pretty well defined boundaries. Cities have boundaries. Organizations have boundaries. Families have boundaries. In fact, enforcing your boundaries in interpersonal relationships is really important to the health of that relationship. Because if someone oversteps your bounds and you don't say anything, resentment will start building up, and you'll feel walked over, and you will be disrespected subconsciously by other people. Maybe not the person who did it the first time, but the third or fourth or fifth. But eventually, someone will come along and take advantage of you. So you have to protect your boundaries. You have to enforce your boundaries. They have to be known, and you can change them, and they can have gates and filters, right? The thing is, though, if the liberal part of the tribe runs amok, or no boundaries, no borders, there's no filter system for new ideas, new people, and new goods, and so fentanyl can creep in as a good that should not be in the country. Illegal fentanyl is killing like 50,000 people a year in America. Pest and disease can come in, right? Ebola can come in from a country of origin in the African continent. And dangerous people can come in. Jihadis can come in through our border and wage war in our country. Even ideas, jihadism can filter in through Twitter and social media without the right boundary and pushback. If no one calls a bad idea, typically done by the right, we're more conservative and more suspicious of new ideas because they want to maintain things working, and the other group wants to grow them. Anyway, my point is, if the left goes amok, you will be ransacked, disease-ridden, and your economy will be unstable. If the right runs amok, you will have no gene diversity, no new ideas, limited growth, and you will dwindle and die. So one extreme will, imagine removing a cell wall. It will die. I mean, some certain viri will do that to plants. I think Ebola, if I'm not mistaken, destroys the cellular membrane, and so you just hemorrhage. Blood just flows everywhere because there's nothing to stop it. There's nothing to contain it. On the other side, if you get no nutrients into your system because you're not eating anything because you're worried about some potential bacteria, you do emaciate, you die. You become crippled, and you're not getting enough minerals, and eventually you starve and you die. And so maybe that interplay is about the immune system. Maybe it's because it's the immune system that lets you take in all this crazy shit. You're breathing in air that has God knows what in it. You're eating stuff that's covered in God knows what. You're touching other people that are, covered in, you never know what anyone, or you can't see any of this shit. But your immune system is the filter that ultimately, well, your skin is a filter, I guess, and your orifices have filtration mechanisms, and then ultimately so maybe it's a system of filtration that is flexible and holds the peace, lets the good stuff in and keeps the bad stuff out, and does a really good job. I mean, we all should be dead if you think about what's in the air these days, just from our brakes, brake dust and God knows what else, inkjet printer, laser ink dust, and all these carcinogens, and it is hurting our health. And so I was thinking, what if there's a mechanism for this in the brain that has evolved, towards one direction or the other. And I think, I Googled it, and there is a set of neurons, a neural pathway called the threat detection mechanism. And I think the right, the conservative half of our U.S. tribe, because this is seems to be a uniquely U.S. problem, but let's just confine it to what I know best. So the half of the U.S. tribe has this threat detection system. The other half does not. And so yes, racism does happen to occur more on the right because the right is constantly, if you say, triggered by foreign entities, and so they're more likely to get concerned of an outsider who's visibly different than them versus the left, who will invite them in, no problem. Even though, all these lone wolf terror attacks happen I don't know if they happen in sanctuary cities, but I will say this about HRC once, okay? The left did not view her as a threat. That's all you gotta say about these people. They don't, and then they think Donald Trump is a threat to America, which is like the opposite of the truth. The right was freaking out about the threat that HRC represented to our country and the world thereby, by extension, that they voted in Donald Trump, who spoke about the threat of HRC. So, it's crazy. And now these people are run amok. You got Antifa. They have no shame. They do have an ideology. It seems to be Marxism, or a collectivism at all costs, and the right is like individualism at all costs. We would rather have a portion of our society be broken, destitute, if that's a symptom of a greater freedom enjoyed by everybody. And now the left is saying, and that's almost like becoming a defensive posture, because we're enforcing our cultural borders. Ideas are being vetted and tested and attacked vigorously. People are being vetted. The border wall is a physical manifestation of the country enforcing its boundaries. American society enforcing its boundaries against other European nations, China, Russia, everyone. And then on the left, they're like collectivism at all costs. Even if that means nobody's happy because everyone's the same, except we're all different, and white people are oppressors, but people of color are the oppressed. Which, by the way, is the term people of color the most racist thing ever? How is that any different than colored person? Colored person, you take that people, you add the word of, and you take the S off, and now it's okay? 3 letters difference? People of color versus colored person? Are you fucking kidding me? These people are so racist, I can't even stand it. It's so crazy. And they're all NPCs, man. All they do is they're just locked into this group thing, and if you step a toe out of line, you get kicked out of the tribe. And I gotta tell you, man, as someone who has left all his tribes behind and has sought a path for himself over the last year, it's scary. It's scary being floating out there, you know. But I landed in Charlotte. I'm amongst like-minded people. I'm meeting people that I'm having diverse debates with. It's so exciting to be discussing ideas, you know. I have a really exciting phone call today with a business that I just, oh God, oh. Can I tell you what it's about? So it's not my place to reveal details, but there is a social media company that wants to position themselves as the place for everyone, and is approaching a large organization that would really bring them to the national stage. And I might be a part of this, a little cog in this machine, and I'm like through the moon, because Facebook just purged I don't know how many hundreds of pages. YouTube just went down. Twitter is attacking anyone, shutting down any account that shares a PC meme. It's like a brand new meme. It's brand new. I've never seen this happen so fast. I noted it a week ago. I know it's been around for a few years, but memes have, you know, they kind of lie dormant until they click, and then they're everywhere. They go viral. And it is such a funny meme. It's pretty darn, what's the term? Not, innocent. It has nothing to do about violence, and then the left is so triggered by it. They're saying they're dehumanizing us, and they're positioning us to be attacked, and we're like, no, you dummies. It has nothing to do with physical violence. It has everything to do with intellectual individualism, and the left doesn't like it. I think 1,500 accounts on Twitter were just shut down. It's crazy. And now all this thing, you know, I was so bored. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to talk about today? And I got so excited talking about this stuff that I think I have to dedicate my YouTube channel, oh God, under my own name with my face in the crosshairs, to talk about this stuff for conservative business owners. You know, conservative entrepreneurs need to know how to deploy conversion marketing best practices, find market product fit, and engineer customer acquisition and scale customer acquisition, because we need new ideas out there, man, and new business models. Really, you know, all the ideas have kind of been developed for the next 100 years, I think. But you know, you do that, you stick your neck out, and you can get attacked. You can get doxxed, but if I'm, you know, fucking public, then I take that piece off the table, that threat. What else is the downside? I mean, this is all I think about. It's all I talk about with my family. It's all I do is watch the political discourse, and I have so many fucking opinions that I've been afraid to say. I had to leave Chicago because I couldn't speak my mind around anybody. You couldn't mention Donald Trump. Forget about wearing a MAGA hat. I mean, to this day, I'm not dumb enough to wear a MAGA hat. I'll get called a racist, and then I'll get slammed in the back of the head by a billy club, by some Antifa, some anti-fascist. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The fascists are calling themselves anti-fascists. What? It's like, what about Orwellian doublespeak. Talk about gaslighting, telling someone what they see is not real. And you can't use the mob word now, according to CNN. Kanye is a racist because he's pro-Trump. And even though he's talking about love, all he's talking about is love, love, love. And the Antifa is fighting for peace. Have you seen them in Portland? They're like blocking the streets and directing traffic like a goddamn militia, which is interesting because they think, because they're ignorant and dumb, I mean, they're fucking brainwashed by the deep state. I don't know how else to say it. Whoever is pushing and controlling this narrative at the highest level has brainwashed a large percentage of young, naive dummies. What do they call them? Useful idiots. Into taking up the hammer and sickle in some perhaps misconstrued patriotism, but I'm starting to think these assholes are just have too much evil in them. They're not nice people. And anywhere they would be, in any country, they'd be fighting against the power structure. And so they want to destroy the dominance hierarchy of society, the competence hierarchy. And I get where they're coming from, because before I was participating in the economy, making real money, tapped into kind of the corporate world, I felt left out. I felt locked out. I felt disenfranchised. I felt bitter and resentful. But I never fucking took arms up with those that were successful. I was constantly, this is the difference, man. I was constantly trying to improve myself to be worthy of success and I never, that's not true. In my weaker moments, I did try to tear people down, at least like on Twitter or mentally or verbally. I never hurt anybody or took arms up against anyone, but in my weakest moments, I did exert jealousy and resentment and bitterness, right? But that always put me in the wrong direction, and I would recover and I would rebalance, and I'd be like, no, positivity, inner strength, resolve, courage, accountability, responsibility. These are the things that really Jordan Peterson helped me to really hammer into my being. And so they have no excuse, man. They have no excuse. These are bitter, resentful people. They are racists. And when I say they, I mean the die-hard, violent left, the far left. The far right is like a bunch of jokes. And the thing is, the right acknowledges that, identifies them, and distances themselves from them. They are a known cancer, and we have a mechanism for isolating them so they can wither away and die. The left, they are being run by their most cancerous ideological despots. And so if you step out of line, everyone's afraid of this mob on the left. Everyone. If you identify anywhere, left? If you identify anywhere left of center, or even centrist, you're a sympathizer. If you're a centrist, you're effectively a Nazi. But if you're anywhere on the left and you step a toe out of line, they're going to come after you, man. And everyone's afraid of being the next. I mean, Scott Kelly quoted Winston Churchill, who defeated the Nazis, the real fascists we've had in the last 100 years. And because Winston Churchill did some fucked up things to Native Americans and was like one generation away from being a caveman himself. I mean, 2 generations ago, we were practically cave people. In the 1800s, we were cave people, okay? Like, indoor plumbing, electricity, these weren't widespread. Everyone was poor. We were practically living, in a feudal situation. And he had to apologize, because, and I'm just like, man, what a pussy. He doesn't want to get, and then you see everybody, the reaction of that on Bill Maher is astounding. Go watch that clip. Bill Maher, Scott Kelly, I don't know, it was very recent, and you'll see him overthrown by the mob. I can go another 15 minutes on this, no problem. Should I do another 15 minutes? I'm going to stop here and I'm going to do my other video for an hour. Okay, thank you everybody, and if you listened this long, I guess I'm coming out of the closet as a conservative, and if you don't like it, fuck off.